My name is Daniel Robinson. I attend AC Flora, and I'm planning to major in geology at College of Charleston.
Good job.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dave Robinson. I'm the father of geologist Daniel C Robinson, coming in today to talk about my son. Tell you a little bit about those who are missing. I'm still searching for Daniel, so you already know I'm doing everything I can to continue this fight. Also running for office to continue this fight. But tonight, I just want to talk about my son. Give you a little bit for those who don't know Daniel, a little bit inside about him, who he is as a person, those dreams, aspirations. Also, I want to line up, talk about some of the missing person cases that I have been seeing lately, Black and Missing Foundation, and also missing and exploited children. But I'm not planning to be on for a long time tonight, but I definitely want to engage with you all as well and tell everyone thank you. Everyone, thank you who has been following my case, my son's case, for these years, for 3 years now, and definitely been supporting every way that you can, sharing Daniel's story as well as all those who help him many times out there in that search for what those 49 weeks, 35,000 acres of land. Those who have passed out thousands of flyers, the tips that came in, the flyer distribution in the city searches, you name it. Every part of it, every aspect of everything you have done for the last 3 years to help me continue my fight for my son. Also, those who join in on the mail-in protest, as well as requesting those flyers. I will talk about those two things as well. So again, thank you so much. I see everybody who's joining in. I really appreciate you. Those who are on the Instagram side, on the other screen there, those on the Facebook and YouTube, and also X, Twitter, that's joining in. I truly appreciate you. So again, those are the things I'll be talking about tonight. I will start off with some of the missing Americans that we have in this country. So thanks so much for joining in. When the lights and camera turn off, I will be here. When the interest and conversation fade, I will be here. When there's no one around, a father will do anything it takes to be there for his son, to protect his family. without these special people behind me, I wouldn't have a search. Hello, everyone. Again, thanks so much for joining in this evening. Just like I said, for David's Corner, just wanted to talk about my son Daniel. For those who don't know Daniel's case, my son has been missing for 3 years now. Geologist Daniel Robinson. He's a scientist who was born and raised here in Columbia, South Carolina. He's the youngest of his group. And also, he's a little bit about Daniel. A little bit about Daniel. Like I said, being the youngest, he's also had to be the one who actually had to look up to his siblings to navigate some of, I guess, his childhood. So those are some of the fun memories that I have of my son. But like I said, just being a young man who was born, and many of you don't know, was born without a right hand. My son has taught us as parents a few things as well. Daniel just came out as a very strong child. He made sure he did everything. He challenged everything with it, whether it's his siblings, to playing video games, to himself. I can name a few. Like I say, playing those video games is amazing to watch him play. We didn't have to, utilize any type of special equipment or anything like that. Daniel was able to do that as a child growing up, challenge his siblings. Also academically, he looked up to his older brother and his older sisters, twin sisters, and said, "Hey, you know what? It gave me something to look forward to," and he challenged them academically. They always going back and forth who can make the better grades and things like that. Also, Daniel challenged himself. He wanted to play a instrument, and the first one was the French horn. Ironically, that was one of my favorites as well. But he played the French horn and taught himself how to play. It was so magnificent that I remember when I was in Afghanistan fighting for the country. I did receive some information from friends of mine from social media was saying that my son was on the local news channel playing his instrument. But he did very well for himself with that. Has also taught himself how to play the trumpet. They like, and he kind of messed around a little bit with trombone, like his big brother. But like I said, anything Daniel challenged himself and ready to do, that's what he does. And also, we kind of fast forward, Daniel, he decided to take on geology. When he was in the senior year, he was a really kind of undecided student in the freshman year of college. But once he took that class, he fell in love with geology. Something he wanted to do. You don't find too many black geologists out there, but that's something he wanted to do, and he fell in love with it. He graduated with honors, and like I said, took his career out and looked out west. He took a class after he graduated from college out in Flagstaff. Once he got there, it was no turning back for him. He fell in love with Arizona. He wanted to be there and stay there. But I want to go back a little bit by his character, Daniel. From the time he was able, from being around his siblings a lot, he was able to expand his horizon a little bit. Once he went to college, he lived that college life, that dorm experience. And I remember his twin sisters would tell me all the time, as a parent, you'd be concerned about the grades. Say Daniel's always with his friends. It's like they've been partying and the dorm type life. But he had a lot of friends. My daughter, one of the twins, tell me when they was in school down there at College of Charleston, that every time they walk down the sidewalk or walk somewhere or go somewhere, everybody know who he is. Daniel, 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 Daniel. He's well known down in the College of Charleston, but that's his personality. He makes a lot of friends. He makes friends easily. If you're around Daniel, you can't help but love him. That's just his character. He brings people together. He also kept our family together in certain situations where there could be any kind of separation there. Daniel would jump in that gap. Also, he's had his mind set out to do things like explore. He's an explorer. I remember in college, I have never been to Puerto Rico, but he managed to get himself to Puerto Rico. That's what he wanted to do with his friends. Of course, his mother, made sure that he got there. But that's something he does. He said, "Hey, look, I want to spend time somewhere else and enjoy myself." And that's what he does. He get out there and go. But the thing is, Daniel decided to take his career, his life out into Arizona to pursue, like I said, his dreams. This is out there in Arizona. Is the first time he's been living on his own, as well as he landed his first job in life with a company. It's an engineering company that calls himself uh, uh, Matrix New World, is Matrix Southwest Groundwater. Like I said, it's an engineering company. They decided to hire him on as a field geologist, which is also called a hydrogeologist. His job entails him going out to various well sites, different areas of different sites where there's often times drillers out there drill for groundwater. Arizona's a desert state, so of course they need groundwater. They rely heavily on groundwater as well as the Colorado River, things like that. So his job is very crucial for that state. Again, that was his job there at that company. But meanwhile, Daniel would do a lot of hiking. His sister, who ended up living in Phoenix at the time, once he got there, she came up there to live in Phoenix as well. And those two used to do a lot of hiking together. Daniel just loved hiking. Many times he called me and talked to me about Sedona or some of these other areas. I mean, just beautiful areas. He sent me the pictures. We talking on the phone, and that's what he liked to do: hike, and be around nature. So that's part of his enjoyment. But like I said, for those who don't know Daniel's story, he went out on June the 23rd to allegedly two well sites to assess two well sites. The first one, he was there to look at logs and get information from for his job's sake. And then the second well site he was signed to, he was to meet a person from Weber Waterworks. His name is Ken, that works there. He's supposed to meet this guy out into the Sonoran Desert to do a job on this well. And so the story is that, according to Ken, that my son met him out on Sun Valley Parkway, on the side of the shoulder of the road. And once they talked for a brief second, my son followed him into that desert. They drove 2 miles, 1 mile west, 2 miles north, to get to a well site. They reached there at around 9 o'clock that morning. And they had a general conversation about the weather and some of the other little things. And then Ken said my son waved off to him unexpectedly, hopped in his vehicle, drove off, and to never be seen again. So that's the narrative that was put out there at the beginning. That's the narrative that law enforcement is pent on, but it's not a narrative that of course, that I accept. And the reason why I haven't, because for the information I had got high in sight. Now I can tell you a little bit about Daniel's story and what I have done from the beginning is just like any person. And I'm saying the story because a lot of families right now. I want to stop right here real quick and tell you that right as I'm speaking, over 3,000 people have gone missing today. This is something. It's a statistic that is out there. To have that many Americans go missing every year, and almost 2,000 of which, a little over 2,000, could be children. Mostly are children. And so it's a crisis that happened in this country. 600,000 Americans go missing every year in this country, and and I'm saying this because a lot of families are suffering from this right now, just not knowing what to do. So my family wasn't alienated from that. I remember sitting on my back porch in the area that Daniel knows and my family knows my favorite spot, and I received that phone call from my daughter who lived in Phoenix, like I was saying at the time. And she had a coworker that came over to one of Daniel's coworkers came over to her apartment. And I can tell you, this coworker that came there was one of Daniel's on the job and off the job friend. and he came to her house. She didn't know who he was. Of course, she was really devastated. What I hear later, because someone knew where she lived, and she didn't tell him, but he expressed that he came there before with Daniel. I'm sure probably sitting in the vehicle. And But anyway, he came and he said, hey, said he was out looking for Daniel, and see if he was there, because he wasn't home. And so that gave her the alert that something wasn't right. Asked a little more questions. He said that no one had heard from him ever since from what the Matrix New World. I can't tell you guys. I went back a few days ago and started going back over this case over and over again to find little parts I missed or forgotten about. And one of the things that's initially Matrix New World said he was at the well site at 8 o'clock in that morning. It was around 8 or so in that morning. But anyway, he expressed to my daughter that he did nobody seen him since 8 o'clock that morning. And so that stunned her. Of course, she could. I'm not sure she called her mother, but she did call me. And when she called me, she was telling me what was going on. She was very upset on the phone. Of course, being a father, we had to make sure that she, being okay, emotionally and things like that. So I was able to help her with that. And also at the same time, we want to make sure we did our due diligence and make sure that Daniel's okay. It was out of character, of course. Daniel do not do anything without those two. Like I say, are very close. Matter of fact, they already had plans to go hiking that weekend. So I sent her over to his apartment to go check and make sure she had someone to go with her. And once they reached that apartment, she called me back. And in the meantime, I was calling around to his mother. I called his mother's house to see if her and her husband heard anything from Daniel. Also, the family members and so some of the others. And then, we didn't get no one heard from him. But when she got there, like I said, she looked in, knocked on his door, tried to see if the door is unlocked. Looked through a patio. She got on the patio and she noticed that one of the blinds kind of semi cracked. So she was able to peek through that blinds and see that living room light was on, but no one's there. His vehicle was missing, and so of course, with all of that going on, as a family, we only can think sideways because Daniel, like I said, is out of character for him. He would never ever go anywhere without expressing that to his family, friends, or someone. And so first initial thought was once we did our due diligence, and I'm saying this again, you guys, because that's exactly what families are doing. We do our due diligence first, call everybody, check this, do that, those steps. The next step for me was because of this is to get someone to go into Dane's apartment and make sure no foul play happened. Somebody stole his vehicle because he do have friends or people that he may know. Because I mean, just before he went missing, he told me some friends of his came in from out of state from New York to come visit. So, just make sure everything's okay. Call law enforcement, which is Tempe Police Department. He was living in Tempe at the time. Tempe for those who don't know Tempe, Arizona. And so from that point, Daniel, well, no, I called Tempe Police Department and tried to get them to do what is called a welfare check. My idea of a welfare check is to go into his apartment and see if everything's okay. If they can't get access, or talk to landlords, whatever the case may be, because we're as families suspecting something's not right, especially expressing what we feel our concerns were. Um, but I can tell you, once I made a decision to call the Tempe Police Department, it took me a good 30 minutes to get my nerves up to do it. And I'll be honest with you, being a black male and a father who's over 2,000 miles away from my son, I didn't really have that great trust in law enforcement, from our background, from the history I grew up with law enforcement, is I didn't have that great trust, as in sending them over to his apartment without me being there to witness anything. Because, too often we hear on the news and things where you call for welfare check or you call because your loved one having a mental health crisis or whatever the case may be, and then law enforcement kill them or something. And so those things was worration for me as a father, being over 2,000 miles away and not actually being able to watch law enforcement go do this welfare check. But nevertheless, I had no choice. So I had to make the decision to say, hey, look, call Tempe, see if they can go over there and do this welfare check. I did do that, but that did not go through the way I was planned. One of the reasons why, because, they was asking questions. of course. And one of the things I said from the only information I had, because of course I've been doing my due diligence again, making phone calls, call his job, got in contact with his job, find out what was going on that morning. Just so little smaller details. And what I was told is that he was working in an area called the White Tank Mountains. And that's the only word they gave me at the time. I didn't know any other thing about Sun Valley Parkway or any other location. But once I said that to the operator for the Tempe Police Department, she immediately said, "Hey, it was out of their jurisdiction, even though he lived in their jurisdiction," and they referred me over to the Buckeye Police Department. And so, of course, everything went from that point. Of course, to go fast forward because there'll be so much detail tonight. I can tell you, I did end up putting a police report in. It wasn't immediately either. Law enforcement had told me I had to wait 12 hours to do it. I was 2 hours short. I had to wait those 2 hours and then call back once the 2 hours was up to report them missing. And once I did that, which again, I'm telling you this, guys, before I go further, for families who listen to me who may be going through the same thing, there's no such thing as a wait policy in law enforcement. Anytime law enforcement ever say that to you, please ask them to provide you with a policy that says that. And I guarantee you, 9 times out of 10, is no such policy in the United States. A family do not have to wait 1 minute or 5 minutes or 24 hours or whatever the case a law enforcement officer tell you, or someone tell you on the phone. It doesn't exist. When you're a family member, you report immediately. There's no wait policy according to the Buckeye Police Department, but they told me that anyway, and I waited 2 hours. That was 2 hours that could have caused being the biggest difference between Daniel being missing and not missing to date. So make sure that you never ever accept that as a policy, because it's not a policy. And if it is one, I am running for Congress, and there'll be something that I'll be digging deep diving into as well. But the thing is, I did eventually got that police report in, missing person report in. And as the things was going on, we started learning more details. Talking to Officer Cruz at the time, he and another officer rode up and down. That's when I first heard of Sun Valley Parkway, the road that Daniel was meeting. That's the first time I even heard the story once he talked to Ken about what happened that day. And I mean, what I told you this a while ago is what Ken told them. I learned about the story as well. I learned that the law enforcement went up down Sun Valley Parkway in that area to search for Daniel. When I say search, not going into the desert, like searching the desert, but up and down Sun Valley Parkway to see what Mr. Cruz told me at the time, Officer Cruz, to see if he's stuck on the road, because Sun Valley Parkway is a very long road, to make sure he's not stuck on the side of the road somewhere. Now, I can tell you, fast forward, got information that Daniel was out missing out in the desert. So the first thing you do is, as a family member, hey, look, it's urgent for me. We know the circumstances about my son. We know that he never been in that area before. It's at nighttime. It's a Sonoran Desert. It's all kind of hazards out there, from washes to mines to you name it. All kind of things going on that they knew about. And as first thing I did as a father, ask for air support. Hey, look, I found out from a job he out there, and might be out there in the middle of the desert somewhere, in the Sonoran Desert. It's nighttime. Deserts get cold at night, hot in the day, and y'all need to go help him. And make a long story short, put a helicopter in the air. Being a military guy, one of the things that came to mind. And law enforcement said they can't fly at night. That was the story they was giving me. But we can do it tomorrow morning. We can go look for him tomorrow morning. It was BS to me, of course, being a military guy. But I had nothing but law enforcement to rely on. And I can say this also to those who are listening, who have family members, that, a lot of it can get frustrating. Just keep a level head. It's hard to say don't get emotional, because I was an emotional wreck. What I'm saying is, if you can, somebody in the family, try to make sure that you stay on top of these things, especially when you're dealing with law enforcement at the beginning. You have to listen to everything and write down everything. Just keep record of whatever going on at the time, so you can navigate things later on, because you never know what things come in handy. So that was my approach. I was able to, like I say, request that helicopter flight. Of course, law enforcement decided to uh, say they was going to do it that morning. And then later on that day, he called me back right after, probably an hour or so later, and said it was unauthorized. From what the officer was saying, they unauthorized it because Daniel's a grown man. He can disappear if he want to, type scenario. And that right there, that one thing, it messed me up. And I can tell you guys it messed me up, but I was still talking to law enforcement. I was already in my car at that point, getting in my car, start heading out. When I got to a hotel, I didn't let them know I was actually coming. Law enforcement. I just told them, hey, look, talk to them on the phone, still give them information, see if they're gonna put this bird in the air. Make a long story short, do everything I had to do just to get to Arizona and go look for Daniel myself. But I wasn't. I needed help, so I wasn't just going to dismiss law enforcement. But I definitely needed to get there to do it myself. But make a long story, get everyone, and I'm not gonna go through the full details because I can. I can tell you those early days of Daniel being missing, there's a lot of things that happened in between that could have been deciding factors. Like I said, for Daniel being found quick and ended up to this point where we're at now for 3 years. And I don't wish this on any family because I remember the days once I got to Arizona, the first thing I did is to start my own investigation. Me and my daughter, we scrubbed every airport. I smile about that because I didn't know how big the airport is in Phoenix, and some of the other ones up in those parking lots. And oh my gosh, I mean, it was a lot. It was a lot of work, but we did it. My daughter and I, we went to every parking space you can name. Though we know Daniel would not just leave out and leave the country or something, leave the state or without telling anyone, we had to check anyway. We had to do our due diligence. So of course, we did our due diligence. I worked with law enforcement. Also did my own investigation by interviewing Ken. Really quick, got set up with his job, Daniel's job, and to get this guy out there. And, matter of fact, I met this guy at the same spot where he said allegedly met Daniel on the side of the road. I can't tell you that was the weirdest experience I had with this guy. The job told him I was on the way, and they gave me the directions to this gate that he's supposed to meet me at out there on Sun Valley Parkway. I got there. I sat outside that gate. I called the company. They called him and said, "Hey, Mr. Robinson, out there on Sun Valley Parkway, waiting on you." A little while later, a vehicle started coming out the desert. You can see the dust from the tires and everything heading our way. Once we got to the gate, he backed his truck up. At least I thought it was Ken, but it wasn't. It was some heavy set guy. Got out the vehicle. He came up to the vehicle, and the first thing he did was asking me, "What did I want with Ken? Why do I want to speak to him?" Those kind of things. What is this about? That type deal. And I thought it was Ken at first, and it wasn't. It was somebody else. And then once I expressed those things to him, he said, "Well, I'll take you to Ken. I'll take you where he at. Where is he?" I asked him where he's at the well site. And I'll take you down there to talk to him. Well, how far is it? I had my daughter and another lady with me. And I said, "How far is it?" He said, "Oh, it's about 20 miles or, some weird number. Mind you guys, it was only 1 mile west, 2 miles north, but he said something like 20 miles or something outrageous." So I told him, I said, no, because as I was saying it, he was throwing all the stuff off. I mean, he had like food bins all over his seat, knocking it on the floorboard or whatever, and trying to convince me to ride with him. I told him, no, I'm not leaving my daughter and, the young lady, behind at the gate. But what he did is he got in the vehicle from that point. He called Ken. You could kind of hear the voice as he was talking on the phone, but I guess he knew that I could hear that. So he told Ken to hold on for a second. He pulled his vehicle up. He talked whatever they had to talk about. He backed his vehicle back up, and he said, "Well, Ken is on the way." When Ken got there, sure enough, it's been some time later. Ken showed up at that gate. The first thing he did, he got out of his vehicle. He opened up his side compartment door of his utility truck, put his hand inside the, I'm a military guy. And the first thing we were trained to do is wash hands. We have to. I'm a gunner, and I had to watch certain things. So I trained that way to notice certain things. But he was in a posture of defensive posture. Had his hand inside his compartment, watching to make sure there was no weapons involved. But once he asked me what I needed, told him who I was. He already knew who I was because that's the reason why he's coming up. But what I was there for. I had my notes, wrote everything so I can write everything he was saying. But once he felt a little comfortable, he took his hand out and he started speaking with me. So you guys saw those pictures online. That was when we were talking to each other. But like I said, he said everything that law enforcement told me that he said. I mean, it was almost like it was written because I mean, it was like word from word from what Officer Cruz had told me at the time when I was coming up to Phoenix. To make a long story, but he changed his story a little later and throughout the conversations. I asked him, other questions before we got back on it. Was he at the well site, for instance? He said he was there since Daniel went missing every day. Um, so I was really happy, relieved to say, because my auntie called me when I made it to Phoenix, say, hey, they finally put the helicopter out there to go look for Daniel. But when I asked Ken about it, he said, I didn't tell him to say that's what they said, but I said, oh, great. You were here when law enforcement came to the well site to check the well site, and you saw the helicopter and all that. He said, no, he didn't. He didn't see no helicopter, heard no helicopter, no law enforcement didn't come to the well site. And so I wrote those things down. But to date, again, hindsight, you guys, law enforcement still put it out there that they did this helicopter search. I think they just told my family that just to make us feel good because I can tell you, hindsight, you guys, I had a FOIA request in for this information since 2022. Here it is 2024, and I still don't have the answers to that. They still, at the beginning when I first put it in, Phoenix Fire and Rescue said they have no record of that. But then I guess they found out that it was about Daniel's case. Now they're saying up to date, they're still looking for it. I said it don't exist. So the thing is, what I'm saying is, that's some of the issues that we had at the beginning. But I can tell you, my efforts kept going. I had to keep fighting for Daniel because at the time, people that could see that there was no action in Daniel's case. I let you guys hear the recording the other day of myself with law enforcement when law enforcement told me that they're not looking for Daniel. They weren't actively looking for him. They put him in the NCIC database, meaning that it was that hey, look, if he was riding down the road at a traffic light and an officer car just happened to be riding down the road and they catch his tag, they'll pull him over and say, hey, your family looking for you. That's the extent of their search for Daniel. And so I remember being in Phoenix, going up to that desert almost every day with my binoculars and looking out in the desert, wanting to get out there in that desert. I couldn't take it anymore, so I did everything I can to get out there, start them on grassroots searches. And I can tell you guys, a lot happened during that time. Investigative wise, was out there doing our search. Was out there looking for anything we could find. We was on a rescue mission. In the meantime, law enforcement did do a search, and I was out there to witness it this time. When they didn't know I was coming, but yeah, they did this one with it's called Silver Air Patrol. A couple of guys, about 5 pickup trucks. I say 2 deep each truck, and they had a fixed aircraft that flew over the area, and they searched the area where the vehicle eventually was going to be found. They came back empty-handed. They didn't find anything out there. According to them, they put out in the public the full search grid. And the reason why they did all of that because during the time, you guys, I was pushing really hard to push Daniel case out there nationally. So of course, the local media was really out there pressing them really hard. And so when that was happening, they had to report a lot of things out to the public. Hey, look, this is the map of the area that we searched. Now I can tell you that map included the area where Daniel vehicles eventually found, but there was no vehicle there, right? By their own search. Overhead flights, and as well as the ground search. Now I can about 30 days after Daniel went missing on June the 23rd of 2021, his vehicle showed up. While I was out there searching, we probably went over that area before, but the vehicle showed up. A local rancher found it. He that's part of his land. His land against the federal land, BLM land, Bureau of Land Management, and also he found it on June the 20, July the 19th of 2021, almost 30 days after Daniel went missing. He found it about 3 miles away from the vehicle. It was a rough estimate, 2-3 miles away from that well site. But it was further out there in the Sonoran Desert, in a remote part of the desert. It was in a 20-foot ravine lying on the side. According to law enforcement who ended up going out there, his clothing, everything's wearing from the underwear down to socks was lying in a pile 3 feet away from the vehicle. But we're gonna explore that real quick. But I can't tell you when that vehicle showed up. I was already still doing searches out there, and one of the things that puzzled me was that I got a phone call. I got a phone call from law enforcement, and not on the 19th when the vehicle was found, but on the 20th. They called me that morning, told me they found Dane's vehicle out there in the desert. Of course, that raised my blood pressure and everything else. Is because when they start telling me it was in a 20-foot ravine lying on his side and stuff he was expressing on the phone, my ears were trained to think I was going to hear that they found him in a tragic way. So of course, he didn't mention anything about Daniel. Daniel on there to say he just said pretty much just said we didn't find anything. We had search dogs, cadaver dogs, you name it. We didn't even see footprints leading away from the scene. That's exactly what he said, and I have those also of my conversation with him. No footprints, no nothing leaving the scene of Daniel, right? And he asked me, and at first thing I asked him, like, look, if y'all had the vehicle yesterday, why you didn't call me? And he literally told me it was because he didn't want to disturb my sleep. And that really made me angry. I'm like, what, man? I'm out here for weeks searching for my son. Hundreds of volunteers out there on the ground. We're doing what we can. You think I'm sleeping? Like, who does that? Um, he brought me to the police station. He told me to call him when I got out there to the parking lot. And when I got there to the police department, I called him. Things gonna take me inside. He came outside. Took me to his pickup truck, and he laid three things on the hood of his pickup truck. It was two pictures of two maps and one picture of the scene is what he gave me. And so, make a long story with that. I'm not going to go into full details because you guys know most of that detail. I can tell you it was very heartbreaking and it was really upsetting the things that he had to say about that scene. Things like he felt the vehicle flipped and rolling. He's kind of moving his hands around, landing on the side. He said the good part, Mr. Robinson, is that um, he was wearing a seatbelt. We noticed because of the way the seatbelt locked, and he didn't. We feel he didn't sustain any injuries, but at the same time, he said we believe he had a severe brain injury, and that he kicked his way out the sunroof, and he pointed at the picture and said that's the reason why his glass is on the ground. Once he got outside the vehicle, brain. He going through this thing about telling me about brain injury, something I'm very familiar with. Um, about it'll make you feel hot and you shred your clothes off. And I knew it was falsehoods, but I'm listening to this guy shred your clothes off. And that's the reason why his clothes was in a pile. And then he stopped me and say, do your son wear boxers or briefs? I'm like, okay, why you ask me that? He's a grown man, but no, I wouldn't know. How would I know that? That's what I told him. He said, well, everything on his body, from his underwear down to his socks was lying in his pile. And just hearing that stuff, I mean, can you imagine as a parent hearing that kind of information? That's hard. That's very hard. Because you can't. The only thing you can do is think of something negative, something painful happened to your child, something bad, something tragic. So all of that was running in my head. Just hearing this guy. Then he stopped and said, "Hey, look, you want to see this vehicle?" Um, you know, yeah, once I got myself together, yes, let's go do this. Let's go do this. And I'm thinking he's gonna take me to the scene of the crime. What I say crime now. And no, he took me down the street to a holding facility for vehicles that they have for law enforcement. So I followed him there. He told me, "Hey, look, I'm gonna let you in through the back gate or whatever. Come through the side." Yes, got out my vehicle, started heading towards the side of the building. He let me in this gate. He stopped me as we got to the corner before we got to seeing this vehicle. He said, "Hey, look, I've seen things like this before. Families think their loved one is missing, and turns out that loved one wanted to be away from them. Like he told me about some woman. They family thought that she was missing. Turns out she just went to be a nun and went to be a nun, is what he told me. He said, not necessarily saying about Daniel, but maybe he just wanted to be away from you guys and join a monastery and become a monk. That's what he told me. And my mind went there, like, okay, what is God talking about? But I was so into seeing this vehicle. what I'm going to see, what I'm getting ready to see with my eyes. And so he kept going and went to this gate and unlocked this gate. He had a whole bunch of cars sitting out there. I didn't see Daniel. I have never seen Daniel's vehicle in person. The pictures you guys see of Daniel's vehicle is exactly what Daniel gave to me. I don't want to put that out in the public. Um, he's proud of that vehicle. I'll tell you this, guys. He's proud of that vehicle. That vehicle symbolized to Daniel manhood. He took care of something. He bought something for himself. I'm very proud of him. His first vehicle he had when he got to Arizona was Mercedes before we call a hoopty. It's like almost like a Ford. It wasn't a Ford. Fits a repair every day type vehicle. But it got him to work. So he worked hard, saved his dough up, and bought himself that vehicle. Very proud of that vehicle. So, of course, I have never seen it in person. The irony to that is we had plans for me to see that vehicle in July because I was coming up to visit my children. We all going to come to Phoenix and see each other, spend time with each other. But instead, I ended up in that police compound seeing this vehicle for the first time in a way. But anyway, the officer opened that gate and he pointed out, said, "Hey, there goes your son's vehicle there." Man, I tell you what, um, it's like yesterday. It's the hardest thing you can actually imagine. I mean, the only thing I can see is that when I saw that vehicle the first time, you can't think nothing positive. I can say that. It was very hard. It's so hard to the point I couldn't move. I was stunned. He was like pointing from a distance, "Hey, go over there and look in the vehicle. Go over there and look in it. Go in there and I couldn't move. I couldn't move. And so he started walking towards the vehicle. I started following with him. We got about 3 feet away from the vehicle. He pointed the airbag, said, "Lift the airbag up and just look on in there. Look on in there." I don't know what at the time I was being smart and thing. I just couldn't move. I couldn't move because of what I saw. And so he started lifting the airbag and that's hanging out the driver's door and told me to look down in the vehicle. I wouldn't do it. So he opened up the back door and he opened the back door. That's when I saw the contents in the back seat. It was NYPD bag. I asked him what was that, and he said, "I don't know," because at first I'm thinking some law enforcement. Why it's an NYPD bag in his back of his vehicle, and he just dumped the contents out. I just couldn't remember what that was he coming out of the bag, but he told me to go and look, and I told him, "Hey, look, guy, sir, I had enough. I need to get out of here." So I can tell you guys the most hard part with that is that I wanted to get out of there because I didn't want to. I'm a kind of guy don't cry in front of people or would cry and things like that. And it was hard for me at that moment. I needed to get out of it at the moment. This guy told me, say, "Well, you need to get this vehicle out of here today. If you don't, we're gonna have it towed away and you got to pay storage fees." I felt like I was begging a grown man to hold that vehicle for me for a while. I told him, "Hey, look, man, I'm not from Arizona. I don't know my son's creditors. Those type things. Those common sense stuff. Look, can you please hold it for at least 3 days? Give me time to find out whose credit is, what to do with the vehicle. They need to come get it, or whatever the case may be, right?" And so he agreed to it. But the good part is, you guys, the blessing was that I was talking to then I didn't he was the chief of police for a different department. I was talking to him sometime when I started my searching. I met a young lady who happened to be from Columbia, South Carolina at the time. She came out to my first searches out there because she moved from here is ironically moved to Arizona, a part of Arizona. She came out to my search, and through her, I met this chief of police, who in turn, he and I would sit down and have lunch and things like that and talk about my son's case. And he knew the chief of police of Buckeye. And he said, "Hey, I know this guy and, everything." And he set up a meeting for me. But that meeting came right there. God is good. I'm telling you why, because when that guy told me he'll hold that vehicle for me, um, that meeting happened a day or two after that. And so I was able to do this meeting. To make a long story, that's when I started learning a lot about what's happening in my son's vehicle. And when I say what happened, what didn't happen is what I should have said. What didn't happen was, according to Detective Biffin in the phone call, I have that as well. He told me the reason why he didn't see no reason to do forensics on the scene of that crime scene I call. And so once I got into this meeting, I knew those information. I was upset about why they didn't do any forensics on the scene. I asked questions. I had a whole list of questions. I was able to bring a friend of mine now, a friend of mine at the time. I just met him. He was a NAACP member at the time, and I brought him in. He asked, "Hey, look," he asked, "Can you just be a sit-in to sit in this meeting with me and law enforcement?" Yes, I was really happy to do that because it made me feel comfortable. And so he was there to listen and observe. And at the same time, I was there to be able to answer my questions to Chief Hall and his whole entire staff. Could you imagine being in a big room with nothing but everybody had guns on their hip but you? And and you're the only black guy except for the NAACP representative that was sitting there. It was really intimidating in certain areas, right? But the thing was that I was upset. I was upset because of the non actions that I've been asking for, the searches to. I was asking questions. Hey, look, I want some pictures. I want something. I want something from law enforcement. Is what the meeting was all about. I had my questions, things like, hey, look, how you know my son was even driving the vehicle, and this is a smart remark I got from, I think it was Lieutenant Hanneman or something like that. To that's his name. He's the head of the detectives at that. So he was a detective sergeant, I believe. But he said openly in front of everybody, "Look, it's his vehicle. Is obviously he was driving. I mean, that is not law enforcement. I'm not law enforcement. I'm not a detective." But I knew that didn't sound right. I told him, like, "What you mean by that? You're assuming that he was driving because it's his vehicle. That don't make sense to me. You haven't done any forensic work to improve that." So, um, and that's the kind of remarks I have gotten. I was looking for information or like the only thing they had was pictures. I said, "Hey, look, you gave me one picture. Where's the rest of these pictures?" Because when Chief Halls kept talking, he was using a lot of plurals. "Oh yeah, we took all these pictures," and he kept talking about pictures, pictures. I'm like sitting there, pictures. You only gave me one picture, man. And so, long story. He said he promised to give me these pictures. Every picture they have. He's talking about this helicopter search and all this kind of stuff they were doing. And so, to make a long story, so I got really upset in that meeting. One of the things I asked them to do is the forensics. Look, y'all still have my son's vehicle. Y'all gave it to me. They released it to me. I was going to 3 days to get it out of there, but I asked them to do the forensics on it. I said, you got to do something. Fingerprint is what I asked for. They said they'll hold it. They agreed. Chief Hall agreed to hold it for me to do this fingerprinting. He said, and so that's the only thing I knew to ask for. And so they said they're gonna hold a vehicle. After the meeting, there's so much other stuff I can tell you about the meeting, but I'll save for later. But when I got at a meeting, me and the NAACP representative, um, he stopped one of the detective stopped me and said, asked me where I was parked. Told him where I was parked. He told me to stay there. He'd be right there. He pulled up his pickup truck behind me. He came out his pickup truck with a whole bunch of bags, brown paper bags, um, with my son's things in it. Say, hey, here's all your son's things that we took from the vehicle and from the scene or whatever. And he put it in the trunk of my vehicle. I didn't know what to do with the things, man. But everything I heard from that meeting, I was very upset. I felt that law enforcement didn't do anything, which they haven't. And I could tell y'all some more details about it later, but I really got the insides of why they didn't do anything in my son's case. And so, hearing the my son join the monastery, become a monk part, that itself, I'm telling you guys, that itself caused me to um, get a private investigator. I must have interviewed, and I'm saying I'm gonna stop right here too, and I'm going to teach some stuff while I'm talking about my son's case. For families who are listening who have a missing loved one, a lot of things are going to happen when you're have a missing loved one, and you have people from um, podcasts to I'm just going to tell you podcasts to I'm just anybody that'll come out to you and say, hey, they're going to help. right? And from organizations, nonprofits, or whatever. A lot of it is good, but be careful when you're in a vulnerable state. When you're in a vulnerable state, you're in a vulnerable mind. A lot of things that you probably would normally catch, you won't catch because you're in a wreck. I can tell you that mentally you're a wreck. You might look good, but mentally you may not be. And I can tell you that people will take advantage of weakness. They'll take advantage of things they see that you not paying attention to. And a lot of times people are in it for other things other than your loved one. And you best believe that can happen. Some people can take gain off of your pain. So what I'm saying is be careful and be very guarded when it comes to um, just hearing anything that sounds too good to be true. Hearing too much compassion that seems to be unreal. You know, for a person like myself, when I say this, you guys, I say this from a point of a man who believe in God, who believe in miracles, who believe in blessings. And so I can tell you when you have a missing loved one, you would definitely have a lot of these private investigators that will hit you up. I mean, you're going to get hit up with them. And they're going to tell you these things. They're going to tell you, hey, how much they can help you and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And we're going to do this pro bono. Pro bono is a word that I learned to hate. I can tell you that. But pro bono. They'll tell you pro bono. And for a person like myself, who may be like you as well, who is a spiritual person, who believe in God, who believe in miracles, who believe in blessings, um, those things can make you a point where you're not, and you're already in an emotional state, not being aware of what people really intense really are. So I can tell you this: if a person come to you and say, hey, they want to do something pro bono, get it in writing. I learned this from my attorney at Hindsight. Get it in writing. I don't care. I know you're in an emotional state and things you might miss. Those little smaller details you might miss because of that emergency, that emotional state. Get it in writing. It's almost like what a person say when they get married and they have this millions of dollars and they say, get a prenup. you know, it's almost the same thing. Just get it in writing. I can tell you, just get it in writing, get in the contract. You have to. You have to suck yourself together, get yourself together, and get things put in paper, black and white. That's the legal advice I can give you without being an attorney. So make sure you do that first. Protect yourself, protect your family. Because if the time comes, you would need that kind of stuff. And also, yeah, do get an attorney. But the thing is, I had to get myself a private investigator because of what I've heard in that meeting. I need a second opinion because I would not believe my son join a monastery, become a monk. And I can tell you this because I am a person who's very detailed. I was holding my own investigation at the time. I actually went to go looking for because he said that I went to go look for monasteries, and I found one. Magically, believe it or not, they have them in Arizona. I found one. It's not in walking distance and not in driving distance, just that easy without going on the interstate, going 2 S's up to get there from that desert on I-10. But make it long story, I'm saying is I looked that up and it was closed because of COVID at the time. So I had to rule all of that out. Had to send someone up there too to go check to double check um, to rule all that out just in case. Maybe he's saying something slick that he know about that I don't know about. So I had to make sure to rule it out. So Daniel wasn't at no monastery. He didn't join the monastery to become a monk, as Detective Biffin suggested to me. Um, so I can tell you that doing my full due diligence, I had to get that private investigator. He's an accident reconstructionist. He came in and he did the work. I can tell you he did the work. He found a lot of information that you know today. I can tell you two parts of that. When once they gave me everything, like Chief Hall told me, he gave me in that meeting. He told me he's going to give me. I said I need a report. I said I need y'all full report of what y'all did and what y'all didn't do. I need his report. And he told me right in this meeting. I had my witness there, the NAACP guy. He said we're not finished completing this report yet. Our detective's still writing this report, but he's going to finalize this report this week. But we're going to give you a partial half report. And I still got the stuff, you guys. A partial report, and this is unredacted. A partial report until the rest is finished. He's going to give you the full report because they finished with Daniel's case, and it's gonna give me all the pictures they had from there. And I promise you guys, they did that. They gave me a partial report first. And I have that. I'm about to release all this kind of stuff to the public eventually. They gave me a full report completed. They said it was done. I have a post from them that they put on their social media place. They say had no more leads to file in Daniel's case. They were done with his case. They since took that post down, but nothing necessarily disappear off social media, so I was able to get it. And they told my investigator once he came on board that they was done with his case. If you guys were asking the question, what all the information you learned about Daniel's case, it didn't come from law enforcement. They did not do one thing to give us information about Daniel's case. Everything from the 11 additional miles on Daniel's vehicle, the red transfer paint that was found in his vehicle, the 46 initial cycles, the speed, you name it, the time of day, the airbag deployed, all that stuff came from my investigator. It came from my investigator. Law enforcement didn't contribute to one part of it. Like I said, they said the Buckeye Police Department said that they were done with this case. They told him, my investigator, and y'all saw the videos when he's talking to the news channels, telling you what they told him firsthand. They were not investigating Daniel's case. Only reason Buckeye came out with investigation, we investigating doing that was because of the media. God bless. And I can't tell you guys, the only impression I have gotten is when they told me they were done with Daniel's case, they didn't know I was going to get a private investigator. I assume they thought I was going to say, tuck my tail between my legs in a sense and go back to South Carolina. I probably one of those kind of fathers. And that was the end of Daniel. That was it, right? No, it was to their surprise and their shock. I fought hard 3 months to get Daniel's case on a national level. Of course, it took a little part of the tragedy of another family, the Petito family, that helped give it a boost. We also had cases like Jelani Day, who went missing, and Carmen Day's son went missing. And so all those things were going on at the time, and they was talking about white woman syndrome, how disparities there from media coverage. And I can't tell you all that happened in one little block. And so what I'm saying is, because of that, and because of you guys that's listening right now, that's why I talk longer than I should. It's 57 minutes now. I wasn't intending to be on this long, but what I can say is, for a guy who comes from South Carolina, who's retired military, just, unexpected, that's what I wish this on no one. Unexpected to have a young son missing, anybody in your family missing. It's hard. And to go into a state that you know nothing about, a state that you don't know anybody. Only person I knew at the time was my daughter, because she just happened to be there following her brother. And and to be able to pull a grassroots movement, I call it a movement because it is a movement, a search with volunteers of people like you who took their time and spend their money and their time. When I say you spend your money, it costs gas money to come out there in that desert. Take your time, you put yourself at risk. 118 degrees, we're out there all day searching for a stranger, a person they didn't know, and spending all the time out there in the desert. We became family out there. So, make a long story, that means a lot to a family when you got people like that, just strangers or everybody together, But one thing we didn't know, we all Americans. So that's the biggest part, And the thing is, to see that to this date, that always impresses me. I still think about it all the time. I can't move on from it, So I have to do my part. So that's why you see everything I'm trying to do is part of that. All that is part of the whole bit package, running for Congress, still fighting, advocating to put this thing, and I'm gonna throw it up on the screen real quick. The Clear Act, for instance, something a friend of mine from Louisiana talked about, getting this implemented in every state. Something that is needed. We need it in every state. It shouldn't be just in Texas and a few other states that kind of adopted a system like that. But this is a system that helps older adults, the adults like Daniel age at time, 23 years old, going missing, 24 years old going missing. and he didn't fit the Amber Alert, he didn't fit the Silver Alert, but everybody in between that are Americans too, right? So we're not taking away from finding our children and finding our elderly adults, but our children, our 20 years old, our 19-year-old, our 55-year-old matters too. Everybody matters, right? And we have a system in place that can help everybody. We have 600,000 Americans go missing. Why not have a system that's already in place work for everybody? We have a system that you go on the. I know many of y'all been on the highways and you see the sign come up and say, "Oh, check out this license plate. This person missing, or a child Amber Alert, child missing, or endangered person like an elderly person," and they have that Silver Alert for the license plate, or that kind of stuff to look out for. I mean, that should be for anybody, everybody, right? We have 600,000 people go missing every year. I get it. It'll be on constant, but whatever it takes. It's a system that's not hurting. Many times we ride past those signs, they just blank, or they have something irrelevant on it or something, you know. Um, so what I'm saying is the system is in place, and that's one of the things that we should help keep going. I mean, I just look at little things that can help for families to get those real quick times of action from law enforcement to you name it, to the public engagement, like you guys giving out those flyers, passing out those flyers, helping my family out. That means a lot. All that stuff means a lot. It's impossible not to have done all the things that I was able to get accomplished without you guys joining. I'm trying to look up here because I want to put on something real quick here. Again, just going to the website real quick. I don't want to share this with you guys. Um, Daniel Robinson, please help find Daniel.com. And I hate to jump this because I'm running out of time, you guys, and I'm gonna come back and talk about Daniel's story another day, some more for those who don't know his story. But please help find Daniel.com is where you can go to help me out. When I first started my efforts to find my son, again, like I told you, I used to go out there with my binoculars almost every day before I started a search, trying to figure out how I was going to get out there. Taking law enforcement advice, they told me not to go out there with that vehicle I had at the time. I would get stuck and they had to come rescue me, is what they was putting out to me. Being obedient, when I say being obedient, I'm a military guy. I fought in the desert of Afghanistan. I know the dangers of the desert. We got stuck many times with the kind of military vehicles that we have in wadis and things like that. So I know not to take deserts lightly, right? So I took that advice. Much as it pains me not to go out there and go search for my son myself with my vehicle. But I can't tell you nothing was going to keep me from that, my son, and that desert itself was keeping me from Daniel. So I had to accomplish that. I had to make sure I do what I do to get. I was getting out there in that desert one way or the other, and I was able to do it. Thank God, was able to do that. What I'm saying is another thing for families. When you first have a missing loved one, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt. You have to do this one thing. You have to set yourself up your social media platforms. You have to search yourself up a website like I did. Please Help Find Daniel was the first website. The next one was searchfordaniel.org. That was specifically for the search. If you go search for Daniel.org right now, it'll take you back to Please Help Find Daniel. Got to revert it back now because I don't have a search going on out there. But what I'm saying is you have to have those things in place as a family. You have to get those things done. And the reason why, a lot of times social media platforms, when you get to put those pictures up, you get to talk about your loved one, you get to put information on your own website, that helps people get engaged into your loved one's disappearance. It helps. I'm telling you, it helped really. So one of the things I learned is because the reason why I did Please Help Find Daniel.com is because being a military guy, communication has always been number one. If we didn't have communication in Afghanistan, a lot of friendly fire would be happening. Trust me, we'd be shooting each other. You know, so we had to have communication. We had to know each other at all times. We had to know certain things, and communication is key for anybody. For anything you do, you have to have that communication. And Please Help Find Daniel was my communication to the public. I talked to law enforcement. They didn't have anything out at the time. I got myself talking to them about that too, asking them to put flyers out. They finally put flyers out to the gates and stuff like that out there in the desert. I had the officer you guys heard the other day when I put the recording on. He's telling me I need to call the local. I didn't know the local news channels in Arizona, but I need to call them myself and see if they can put Daniel's story on and that things like that. But anyway, long story. Please help find Daniel.com. One of the first things I did, besides the social media platforms, please help find Daniel. That came up in my head. Please, you guys, help me find my son. Please help find Daniel. Is where the name came from. It came from my feelings. It came from my plea to the public to help me find my son. If you guys can, share his story. First thing I did is once I got the page up, and I can tell you I do have a background of building websites, so I was able to build a website myself first. This website has been revamped, paid company, but sign a petition was the first thing. I one of the biggest things that was on the website, and today it has on 132,464, and that means a lot to me. And the reason why, I remember it was only 2 people. And it means a lot to me because it helped me, when I go to law enforcement trying to plead for them to do more. I say, look, I have these many people, and every time I look on it, the numbers go up, and now I'm up to 132,000. And I encourage you guys to still do it. If you go look at here, ever since September, it started September the 8th of 2021. My son went missing in June. And if you was to look and see to say the petition is to, who is that to? The Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, Pinzone, and also during the time it was Chief Larry Hall. And also Katie Hobbs was the governor at the time. And I also pleaded with the governor. I pleaded with so many others. But like I said, you guys can check this out as well. You can look at this stuff from the beginning. I can tell you, also, I did constant updates. I didn't have any recent updates right now, but you can see a lot of these updates. I had decision. I'm just pleading to. Just all of these people. Constant updates. Reasons for signing the petitions. People would write. Different things. People will say, "Hey, look, the reason why I'm supporting for for some things to be done into Daniel's case." And if you look at it, you see people say, "Hey, calling for the FBI. My name is David Robinson. I'm calling for the FBI. Uh, FBI request been denied. Second family press conference just for Daniel. I needed donations. Reason for signing. And they have a lot of people, like I said, have the comments. But anyway, the whole point is, you guys. Get things like that done for the families who are listening. Get things like that done. It's hard, but get those things like that done. It'll help in the long run. Also, I can tell you, go back to Please Help Find Daniel. Of course, I had the donation button because I was putting a lot of work out there in that desert. My initial ask when I got to Arizona, I was living in a hotel and working with law enforcement trying to get information. But retired military guy, we don't make a whole lot of money. I can tell you that it's costly. Phoenix is very costly. Can you imagine living in a hotel? My daughter introduced GoFundMe to me. I didn't never heard of it. She introduced that to me. Hey, Dad, hey, look, you can ask people to help you out. So my ask was at the beginning to remain in Arizona. Because hey, look, it was only a matter of time I was going to run out, and I was already talking to local news channels and asking them, tell them, look, I'm not leaving out my son. That's my sentiment. That's what I feel. And so what I did is ask people to help me keep my boots on the ground. It's a military term, but you guys came through for me. Helped me stay in Arizona to fight for my son. That in turns me to get these searches going. And from there, it grew. It grew, and I really appreciate everybody who donated to my campaign. So, I say campaign. I'm still in campaign mode, so you guys forgive me for using the word campaign. I'm still waiting on November the 5th to find out if I won this election. And my mind is still on campaign. So when I say campaign, apologize for that. But you guys have helped to help me with my son's case. Also the events button, I had events, of course, a lot of the events was like the kind of like visuals to a day of remembrance, events I had, past events for searching for my son, but also to bring awareness for other people's cases. So if you guys remember these events right here, that I had public events in Phoenix, Arizona, to help other missing American cases as well, bring attention to their cases, and also to volunteer to search for those who wanted to join the search. That's what this was for. I created this page specifically for searching. Is prepare people for search because it's the desert. You got to be careful out there. So I made sure one of my things was to have the safety briefing and to make sure that everyone's safe. So I created a safety briefing, and there's a virtual one. You guys can go look at that as well. And also how to do line searches because we do a lot of line searches. And again, the tips for working in the desert: keep yourself just in case for emergency situation, something happen out there. God forbid, want to make sure we keep everybody safe, and also how you can sign up. So if I was to have a search in the future, you guys will be revisiting that page. Let me see if I can go back. And I went too far. All right, and so again, you guys volunteer in other ways tab. That's for those who want to be a part of my team. I have a team. I had a desert team at the time. This is for that. Also, flyers. You can request flyers or you can print flyers. For those who, again, is a form of donation who want to donate to, and it's still current right here. Form of donation, you guys can print the flyers out. This will take you to a PDF, of course, for you to be able to print those flyers out in real time. I appreciate that. Again, like I said, it's a part of a form of donation. The other part is to request the flyers. This is free to you. I really appreciate those who request the flyers and get them out into your community because I'm telling you, it's very important to get Daniel's story, to keep it out there, to let people know I'm still searching for my son, to find that person, a person who may know something. It's been 3 years, but yes, um, um, you know, to find that person to say something finally. Again, I use the same analogy, and I'm going to keep using it. The person was living in Arizona at the time when they saw something, but now they live in Little Whiskey, Georgia, or Catskill, New York, or some little small town. Maybe here in South Carolina, for instance. And it takes somebody like you to get those flyers, put them out into your community, and reach that person. Or we don't know exactly what foul play mean. I know foul play happened in Dane's case, but it also give an opportunity to reach him if he's out there somehow, and just don't know who he is or what the case may be. I mean, in the situation, I'm bringing up these scenarios, but what I'm saying is it helps print those flyers. Also, lastly, you guys, before I jump off, um, very important, keep Dane's case from becoming a cold case. Um, you come down on the main page at policehelpfinddaniel.com, and you can download these PDFs. These are the different PDFs to the protests. Saying I came to protest. I was actually doing some physical protesting in Phoenix at the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, as well as the Buckeye Police Department at the time. The Maricopa County Sheriff at the time, his name was Sheriff Penzone, at the time, talked me down, gave me 2 promises that he was going to keep, and he didn't keep but one, but now he quit. But he kept one of those promises, is to do a search for me. The second promise was to work with me to get Dan's case moved to his department. He didn't do that to this date. It hasn't been done with this new Sheriff Skinner that's there now running for office. Um, but anyway, this is for those who have been reaching out to me, say, Mr. Robinson, you know what? If I was there in Phoenix with you guys, or I was there in Arizona with you guys, I would join in this protest with you. And so I came up with the mail-in protest just for that, for those who want to participate, be a part of the protest, but just don't so happen to not be living in Arizona, or can get to Arizona for these dates. So I say everybody can join in on the protest. It's a current protest. It's a protest that goes on every day. It's been going on for the last 2 years, meaning that I'm asking everybody to please, there's a form of donation as well. Print these out and mail them in. You can see what they look like. Mail them in as much as you can, every day as you can, every month, whatever it takes. Just mail them in, because my goal is to get thousands of these sent out to law enforcement every day. They just constantly getting these things from people to say, hey, look, we didn't lose interest in Daniel's case. We didn't move on from Daniel's case. Tell you something to families as well. Please stay engaged in your loved one's case. Please do. I can tell you it's hard. It's times where you say, you know what else can I do? You cannot stop. That's one thing for sure. So if you find something that you can do consistent and keep on engaging, because if not, it gives law enforcement shade to say, you know what, this is a cold case. We throw our hands. They, like I told you, on the I would say the 22nd of July, a few days after his vehicle was found, Buckeye threw their towel up, told my investigator they would investigate, told me they had no lead to follow, told the public that. They were done with Daniel case. They threw it and called it a cold case then. And so what I'm saying is that can happen. That can happen. If I wasn't persistent, we would have never known about the 11 additional miles, never known about the 46 initial cycles, would never known about the red trans. All of that would have never been existing if I would have left and listened to what Buckeye had to say, left and came back. We all even heard about Daniel Robinson. So what I'm saying is, to keep your loved one case active, please stay active in one form or fashion. And this is what keep the active going for those who support everything I'm doing for my son. Is to continue things like this. Please, anytime you have some free. I know I'm asking a lot. Again, like I said, it costs money to print this on paper, put in an envelope, and I'm going to show you the address to send them to. But and send them out to these departments. You know, I know it costs, and I'm asking a lot, and I really thank God to everybody who's doing that. I really appreciate you because from the bottom of my heart, I really mean it when I say I appreciate each and every last one of you. These are the 5 PDFs. You click on one of these here, that will look like these. Mail them in, many as you can, as much as you can, as long as you can. Please mail these PDFs to the address below. Send as many as you can every week. The Buckeye Police Department, his name is Chief Robert Sanders. He took over for Chief Hall at the time, who was in my son's case. He took over. He was the assistant chief then, but now he's the chief. 21699 West Yuma Road in Buckeye, Arizona. And also send it out to the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Russ Skinner. He took over after Sheriff and Zone quit. He's finished out that cycle. Sheriff Skinner is up for re-election. For those who live in Arizona, you know this, and I can't tell you if it was in the decision about voting for him. I'm not going to be the person to say don't vote for him, but I can tell you what, he's not a person in my book who cares about showing families a care. I know it's rough. I know for them, they feel they might be butthurt or something for a father who have no trust in them, or point out, when I say point out their inactions, or whatever the case may be. They're taking their job. Don't have the ability to take their job and do their job and listen to a family who criticize them for what they have not doing. I take it as they don't know how to take that criticism and taking it personal, and then don't want to reach back out to a family or something because of their own personal feelings. And so what I'm saying is, when you have a job, I had a lot of personal feelings when I was in Afghanistan. We had a job in the creed and the code we had to run through. We have rules and engagements. I'm a gunner, and we had rules and engagement. I had all kind of feelings. We had battle buddies who got, in my opinion, murdered. Over there in Afghanistan, but we couldn't go out and start open fire on some people because we upset, or we didn't want to deal with the Afghanis because the Taliban did something to our battle buddies or something. Many times on the fob, I had to babysit. I call it babysit. We call it babysit Afghanis around the fob. Um, I didn't want to do it, but we had to do it. We treat people with human kindness, and regardless of who they are. And so the point is that what I'm saying is, um, for a family who's hurting, family who has pain, who's trying to find answers, feelings don't matter. I don't care how those officers feel at Buckeye or Maricopa County. I just ask them to do their job. That's it, period. I don't care about their feelings. Um, and so what I'm saying is, again, if you guys, and I'm saying this for a reason, if you guys are considering those who coming up for November 5th election, like myself too, I'm running up for election November 5th. We all seeking to get elected. Um, you know, take mindset on who you're electing to be your new sheriff of Maricopa County, because sometimes people actions speak louder than the words. You watch people from afar who they are, and what I can say from a person Just like I would say about the Buckeye Police Department, for a person, not giving myself any praises and things like this, but I'm talking reality. For a person who conducted 49 weeks of desert search, 35,000 acres land, recovered with his searches, recovered other human remains, bringing closure for families that probably lived in Buckeye, for instance. Um, Finding closure for other families, solved a case for the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, a stolen car. And, just being out there doing the work that I had to do out there in that desert without law enforcement's help, not a dime came from law enforcement help. To have not to have the city manager to say, "My condolences to you and your family, Mr. Robinson." I'm talking the mayor of Buckeye. These people, people like Chef Skinner can't even say anything to me. They tell you to the heart of the person that they are. And so what I'm saying is, you watch people, and then when you ask them to be your public official, and then you wonder why certain things are not getting done, or how they'll treat one person different from what they'll treat the other. They're showing you who they are. It is simple things like that. So when I see Sheriff Skinner and many letters I have sent out to him, he started with, I think it's ungenuine in my opinion, making lies up about he's out of town. If he's out of town that much, he shouldn't be sheriff anyway. And he's out of town. And then when he got trapped into a corner, he sent me a generic letter. Um, the case belongs to Buckeye, Arizona, basically, to those effects. So what I'm saying is to say that, I'm very disappointed with that guy. Never met him before. I know he was working under Sheriff's zone at the time, but, never met him. Uh, Maricopa County is where you're going to send the letters out to, though. We need those things out there, the mail in protests. And again, this is the reason to protest, to get Maricopa County to do what they should be doing a long time ago. My son went missing in Maricopa County. I'm going to stop saying Buckeye, Arizona. Here in South Carolina, where I live, it's called Richland County. Richland County, we do have the Columbia Police Department. We have in Richland County, we also have the Forest Acres Police Department. Richland County, we have the Irmo Police Department. But it's all into Richland County. We have a sheriff here who's a very good one, and his name is Leon Lott. You guys can look it up. And I guarantee you, he won't sit there and neglect some of his duties as a sheriff to say, "Oh, yeah, I'm throwing in the towel. I don't want to handle that. I don't even want to look into it." Whatever the case may be, and something happening into his county. I don't see that happening. So, long story short, so you guys be careful with who you say you want there in that spot. So that's all I got to say about those who in Arizona. Because if I was still there, oh yes, you guys best believe, if certain things are not the way it is right now, yeah, it would have been some protests, and I would have had that sit in at Sheriff Skinner's office, and it still may be coming, you guys. So be looking out for that too. Depending on whoever wins this election in November, I will be there to make sure I'm fighting for my son, to make sure law enforcement is doing their parts in this case. Again, thank you guys for spending all this time with me. Oh yeah, before I'm going, I have to do this. I have to do this, and I have to do this because it's very important. It's one of the most important things of the night, and I'm going to share this with you guys. If y'all guys can hang in there with me real quick here. Um, Missing Americans is one of the things that we always have to do, and I ask you guys to do this a lot, is to share a case a day. Share a case a day. We on social media sharing all kinds of things. We share video. I've been on. I watch a lot of dog videos. They make me laugh. I like dogs, and we share things amongst each other to our families and friends. Uh, again, 600,000 Americans missing every year. 3,000 a day. We can find a lot of cases to share. This from the Black and Missing Foundation, Marion Augusta Sims Jr. He's been missing since December the 3rd, through December the 3rd of 2023. Missing from Cantonment, Florida. Description: he's now 67 years old. Missing from Cantonment, Florida. Like I said, gender male. He's black male, and complexion is medium. height 6'1". His weight is 139 pounds, and his hair cut is short, eye color brown. His last seen in Marion was last seen in the 1900 block of uh, Joshua Drive on December the 3rd. And if anybody have any information, they can call the Escambia County Sheriff's Office at 850-436-9630, or the Black and Missing Foundation at 877-97-BAMFI. And also we have here, let's see, I'm going to go to the next. We have here missing child. And again, you guys, a lot of children go missing. I told you almost 3,000 children go missing every day in this country. Ms. Vogel, Aubrey Vogel, she's been missing ever since September the 30th of 2024. You got a QR code, you guys, there. If you guys can click on that for those who want more information. From Colorado Spring, Colorado. She's now 13 years old. And these are some of the pictures here, you guys. Like, again, I say the black, you can look up the missing and exploited children. Missingkids.org is where you can go to find more cases like this. But if you see and know anything about her case, you can reach out to the Colorado Springs Police Department at 1-719-444-7000. We also have from the Black and Missing Foundation from San Antonio, Texas, Jordan Green. He's been missing ever since November of 2015. He's now 32 years old. He's a black male, light complexion, 5'8", 150 pounds, black hair, short hair length, and brown eye color. His last seen in a 7,900 block of Bandera Road. Circumstances: Jordan was walking home from his job at the Over Bar and Grill restaurant just before 9 a.m. Anybody have information, they can please call the San Antonio Police Department 210-207-7660 or the Black and Missing Foundation 877-97-BAMFI. And also, you guys, these right here have QR codes as well. So those who want to rewind this back later and can get those. Also, from the Black and Missing Foundation, we have Tiffany Jackson. Excuse me. Been missing ever since October 2024. And she's now 12 years old. Norfolk, Virginia is the city that she's missing from. Black female, dark complexion, 5'3", 95 pounds, black hair, medium length hair, and brown eye color is her eye color. Location last seen: Tiffany was last seen around 6:45 a.m. on October the 10th, 2024, in the 3700 block of Amherst Street, Norfolk, Virginia. She was wearing her school uniform consisting of a light blue shirt and dark blue pants. The circumstances of disappearing unknown. Any information, please contact the Norfolk Police Department 757-664-7000 or the Black and Missing Foundation 877-97-BAMFI. Thank you again for that. I'll bring the QR code down a little bit for a second there. And also we have here from the missing children, Lamonte Williams, missing ever since October the 2nd, 2024, from Houma, Louisiana. Age now is 15 years old. A male. He's a male. Lamonte was may still be in the local area. He is biracial. Lamonte is a white and black. You can reach out to the Terrebonne Parish Sheriff Office in Louisiana at 1-985-876-2500. We also have here missing child, Miska Johnson. She's been missing ever since July the 31st of 2024 from Schofield Barracks, Hawaii. Age now 19 years old, female. Both photos are of Miska. She was last seen on July the 31st of 2024. You can reach out to the Army Criminal Investigation of Hawaii at 1-808-208-0059. And they have a QR code there as well. Black and Missing Foundation, Khalil Ringo. He's been missing ever since the October 14, 2024. He's now 7 years old. Churchill, Maryland. Black male. Complexion is medium. His height is 3 feet 5 inches. His weight is 32 pounds. Hair color brown. Hair length medium, and eye color brown. Location last seen: Khalil was reported abducted from Churchill Elementary School, located in Churchill, Maryland. There was an Amber Alert put out, abducted and last seen in a 2022 gray Nissan Altima with Ohio plates JKF 3146. And anyone with information can please call the Harford County Sheriff's Office at 410-612-1717 or the Black and Missing Foundation 87797 BAMFI. I'll come down a little bit again to expose the QR code, or you can visit VAMFI.org. So, all right. Also, and that's it, you guys. I really appreciate everybody who joined in with me again. Like I said, it's very important. It's very important for us to share as many missing person cases that we can. I'm really I'm thankful for everyone who's been helping me trying to find my son. I'm still not giving up. We're gonna continue to do so. And also, like I said again, if you have someone missing, please, I know it's hard. It's very hard, and it's easy for a lot of people to say. But I'm saying it from a person who has gone through it too, is to say, look, whatever we do, don't give up on our loved one. We have to do our due diligence. We have to do certain things to keep things going. So I want to say chat real quick for those who I can get on here real quick. Thank you so much again for joining in. I do see here T and Wildflower. Thank you so much for constantly being a constant support and also being a moderator for everything I'm doing here. You've always been a constant support. And also thank you, Barry, for being here, being a friend of mine, as well as the Daniel Ross Foundation board member. Oh, well, and also, like I said, a friend, part of the A team. I really appreciate everything, and thanks to hello to you too. I appreciate you. Also, Spivvy, thank you so much for being constant support. I've seen you, of course, every time I come on, you're always here, so I really appreciate it. Good evening, Mr. Robinson. I can't believe it's been 3 years. Yes, that time has gone by. Please know that Daniel and your family are not forgotten. I pray daily that you will find answers for Daniel, and I thank you so much for your prayers. Because prayers means a lot, and we need every bit of it that we can get. And I really believe that's Stevie. I really appreciate it. Again, I'd say thanks so much for constantly supporting. Also, thank you, Becky, for being here. Any new leads about your son? Yes, as a matter of fact, I'm glad you said that. Yes, I do have some new leads I'm working on. You know, sad to say, I don't know. Sure, law enforcement will follow up on them, but I'm following up on them, and so hopefully we can get some promising things out of it. I can't tell you real quick on any leads. Sometimes, things can happen so fast. You have to go back. And, I have gone back to, on this case. I have so much data, so much things, and you have to go back sometimes so you see if you miss anything. And one thing I haven't explored is the eyewitness, and law enforcement have this as well, but they didn't see need to, but I do explore the eyewitness cases. A lot of eyewitness cases that Buckeye Police Department purposely leave out their report, in my opinion, purposely doing it. For instance, the rancher who said he was there 2 days prior and the vehicle wasn't there. They leave that out because it don't fit their narratives. They leaving out the Ken himself when I told them on notes I had written, didn't know I was gonna need them. Like I told you guys, families, please try to remember, write things down and things like that because you never know you need them. But I had 2 eyewitnesses that heard them as well, and my written notes gave to law enforcement, and they would not put in what Ken said, changing the story, and as well as that he didn't see no helicopters out there and things like that. And also this lead of elderly couple who was passing by Sun Valley Parkway at the time that this first incident happened. near the time where the first incident happened a little before, who had eyewitness say they seen a person fitting Daniel's description coming out of that out of a um, um, like a ravine area out there in that desert. So this is another part. I'm not gonna put too much details out of that, but because I'm investigating that part. But the thing is, those eyewitnesses are there. Also, for the person who may be listening right now who left that tip on the tip line, thanks so much. We're exploring that as well. So yes, there's some things out there, but if law enforcement ain't gonna do it, I'm the kind of father who would do it myself, and you guys seen that for the last 3 years. I don't wait on anybody for anything. Just like this run for Congress. I see something need to be done, I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to wait on people, wait on anyone. Trina, thanks so much for being Triana. Thanks so much for being here. And I'll say praying for answers. What are your theories? I would love to. I would love for Unsolved Mysteries to uncover this case. But I wonder if a podcast or YouTube investigator channel would cover it. It would be great exposure. I have been on a lot of things from Nancy Grace to Discovery ID. We've been on a lot, so I thank God for being able to get Daniel's story out there. What I can tell you, yes, it is unsolved mystery. But when I say it's unsolved mystery, the leads and things, it don't take law enforcement to do the right things. Guys, can you imagine? I'm throwing this in. I'm supposed to be getting off, but could you imagine, for those who know the circumstances of Daniel's case again, if let's put it all in one day. This is went on a span of almost 30 days, but let's put it in one day, and we're gonna change Daniel's story to a law enforcement officer for the Buckeye Police Department, or we're gonna also add in two parts of that story. One part gonna be the law enforcement officer who went into that desert. The other part gonna be Sheriff, not Pinzone, but Sheriff Skinner and Chief Hall or whatever one of their children. Let's mix those two things up, making it one thing. We're going to say officer though, right? Also went out on June the 23rd of 2021 out into the desert to go to a well site to make sure Ken and his workers was okay. He went 1 mile west, 2 miles north, and he made it to this well site around 9 o'clock. Ken said to everyone that this officer came up on the scene. He talked to us for a minute about law enforcement work. He waved all to us and said, "Hey, take care, guys. Y'all be safe out here." And he drove off and never been seen again. Um, the law enforcement called and they asked and said, "Hey, you ever seen this officer?" Yeah, he left. And I noticed his track went further out west, out that way. They go out west and look for this vehicle, and they found it. It's not 30 days. They found it the same as that day. When they found this vehicle, it was lying on the side on a 20-foot ravine. And this officer uniform from his underwear down to the sock was in a pile 3 feet away from this vehicle. Everything was still there. His ID, his gun, his vest, everything there. All of it there, just laying there on the ground, but he was nowhere to be seen. Now, I'm going to stop right there because anybody in this country, unless you're not being sincere, unless you're not being honest, know how that would have went. It would have been no question about that this is a crime scene. It would have been treated like such. They would have did every resource in the book. And then being at that in proximity where that vehicle was found to federal land, there would have been the federal marshals, there would have been the FBI, there would have been everybody else. It probably would have been the president of the United States got involved. I would almost imagine officers would have heard about it here in South Carolina, and Sheriff Lott would have sent some officers out there to go help these people go find this officer who clothes was on the ground. They would have called that family and said, "Well, we covered the stuff. We ain't had no reason to do no forensics here." He was driving. He drove off and wanted to join the monastery, become a monk. They would then put all his stuff in the evidence bags, marked for safekeeping, meaning that butt naked in 118 degrees out there, he come back for his stuff, family, and they would have wiped themselves clean of this and settled later. If the family say, "Well, we need some forensics done on this police cruiser," and they say, "Well, we'll swap the door handle, the shifter, and the steering wheel." and that would have flew as the stint of an investigation for law enforcement. We know it wouldn't happen that way. And so what I'm saying is, you guys don't expect less from law enforcement. And I'm telling you, what I'm doing is not bashing law enforcement. It's putting them to their foot to the fire, because you guys know, if unless you're not being honest, it would have never rolled that way. It would have been all the resources in the world to look for that one officer. It would have been all the resources to look for Sheriff Zone at the time, his son. It would have been all the resources in the world to look for Chief Hall's son. If currently, if it was Sheriff Skinner's son, if it was Sheriff Leon Lott here in South Carolina, son, if it was and what I'm saying is, you guys, is we want fair treatment for everybody. It should be no reason why we have a 600,000 Americans go missing every year in this country, and then people say we have all the ones that never get solved because of things like this. It's the unfair treatment of every case. If law enforcement can't handle it, and I'm telling you the simple part about Buckeye Police Department, if they didn't have the resources to do it, they have Phoenix, they have Goodyear, they have Surprise, they have, I can just go on and on and on. They have the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, they have the state police. They could have went outside. They had the FBI field office. It's been near federal land, on federal land. They had all these resources to go reach out to, but they chose not to. But instead, they chose to try to villainize me as a father. And then, guys, you can guys look at the report. That's why they hit the report, because it's coming to time they're gonna have to answer to that too. Sensationalizing Daniel's case, putting in fillers and things about how my investigator feels about me as a man. What I got to do with my son's missing? Things like that, you know. So what I'm saying is, you guys, you know, I'm a fighter. I'm not a person that's gonna quit on something. My son is not gonna quit on the thing. You guys hear me say that about Daniel? I'm telling you guys, Daniel's not a quitter. He's not a quitter. He don't quit on things. I'm not gonna quit on him. I'm just not a quitter either on things myself. So that's just what it is. But anyway, I go too far. You got me back on another one. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Becky, for being here. I really appreciate it. I wish I answered some of these questions, and I've been on here too long, so I'm going to go down real quick here for those. Thank you, Esther, for constantly being here. I really appreciate it. Good to see you too. In some aspect, I miss everybody who's been supporting my efforts for all these years. Like I said, we have grown to be a family where I've seen your face or not. You guys have been supporting my channel, the channel, Daniel's channel. Please help find Daniel, and so you guys are constantly being here. I really appreciate everybody who's joining in, and those who on Instagram that I can't show on the screen right now. Matter of fact, I think I can show you on the screen right now. Let's see here if I can get you real quick. If everybody could see that, the ones here on social media, on Instagram, I really appreciate you. I really wish I could make that a lot bigger. But thank you so much for those who are on watching from the Instagram side. I truly appreciate you too for being a part. Let's see who else I got here. Again, T and Wildflower, thanks so much for moderating. Thank you, Barry, for moderating. Thank you, JC Adams, for constantly being here. Mary Ellen, thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate your prayers as well. Let's see who else I got. Debbie, I wish I could answer the question, but thanks so much for being here. I know words probably roll off you now so easily because I'm sure you've heard it all. But please to you and your family. Thank you for it. I'm not married, but thank you so much. Hear this. I'm so very proud. I'm so very sorry about what's happened to Daniel. My earnest prayer for you both is that you are able to get resolution to Daniel's remains in time. As a resident of Buckeye, this hit me extremely hard. I'm elderly, but would like to offer any help I can. God be with you and your wife. Well, thank you so much, David. I really appreciate it. Me and Daniel's mother is not married; we're divorced, but I really appreciate it. I would pass that on to her as well. So, thank so much for the prayers because we definitely need that. And as a family, we definitely need the strength. For 3 years, it's not something easy to come by. You're right. But yes, and I never get tired of hearing the prayers and support. So I really thank you so much for that. And yeah, if anything help, definitely those things will please help find Daniel. The mail-in protest, the flyers, definitely the prayers. That's very helpful. So thank you again. Mary Ellen, thanks so much for being here. Also, thank you, Tenizil, if I say that name correct. Thanks so much for being here. Jean, thanks so much for being here. And let's see, Heather, thanks so much for being here. Um, let's see if I can find any other, but everybody, I may say your name multiple times. But thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm just going down here. It just goes on and on. So I really appreciate everybody for being a part. Thanks so much for your prayers. Thank you, T. Lee, as well. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Y'all have yourself a wonderful evening. Do not forget, again, to share a loved one's story. Any missing person, one a day. I mean, this one a day could mean the difference between that person being found or not. Your post may actually hit the right person at the right time, the right place at the right time. And, just by you doing that can actually solve a case, believe it or not. It just takes just that. So again, try to support all the family you can. If you are a person who have a missing loved one, please, if you can watch the video, some things I put out there, first thing you can do whenever you can is get that social media platform up, get that website going, find those community leaders and things like that to help you. Law enforcement need help a lot of times. There's a lot of them that would do it and some that won't, but law enforcement need help. So again, thanks so much, everybody. Have yourself a blessed night. And I'll catch you on the next time around. Thanks so much. God bless.